A ceremony taking place today at Wichita's Veterans Memorial Park. This has become an annual event, many gathering to pay their respects. One of the speakers talked about what he wants our future generations to know about veterans.
I think that's important that we educate them to understand that what it takes to have a country like this. It takes people who are willing to serve.
An honorary flag raising was also held this morning at Via Christi St. Francis to recognize the hospital's veteran staff. A Wichita